They's a past I can't, or rather, don't want to forget, no matter how hard I try. It feels like a dream now, but it was undeniably real. I had a wife. I married at 25. Fresh out of college, I joined an IT company crowded with men where there were no chances of meeting women. It all started when a friend introduced me to her. Her name is Emily. Emily, with her kind and gentle nature, was the polar opposite of my reckless and headstrong personality, which is probably why we were drawn to each other, dated, and got married 2 years after my proposal. Emily worked at a pet store with shifting schedules, so our rhythms didn't align with my weekends off. However, we managed to get along well by sharing household chores. But after about 3 years, our relationship gradually began to sour. In my late 20s, I've increasingly been entrusted with more responsible positions as I've gained experience. While it was a joyous occasion, I think it took a significant mental and physical toll on me. From the beginning of our marriage, Emily was in charge of preparing meals and cleaning around the kitchen, living room, hallway, and entrance. I was assigned to clean the non-kitchen water areas and to get the bath ready. For everything else, whoever noticed it first would take care of it. Of course, there were days when either of us couldn't manage, so we were flexible in our thinking. But at this time, there were fewer days when I could handle my share of the household chores. Then, one day, when I got home from work on the last train, Emily had just come back and was spreading out store-bought side dishes on the table. "Is that dinner for tonight?" When I said that, Emily replied with a tired and apologetic face, "Yeah, sorry. I got off late today and was tired, so I picked it up from the supermarket nearby." She then warmed up my portion of the side dishes in the microwave, transferred them to a plate, and handed it to me. I had store-bought side dishes for lunch, and I really wanted to eat a decent meal tonight. Since I was thinking about this, I wasn't listening to Emily talking at all. And then, "Could you please heat up the bath?" I interrupted Emily and said that.
What?
Emily's eyes widened, and she seemed a bit shocked and froze for a moment. "I'm supposed to heat the bath?" So I guess her reaction is understandable. That's what I thought at the time. I'm tired from working so many days in a row, so, please. Emily then reluctantly agreed and went to heat the bath for me. This kind of days was being continued for days. I didn't know anything about the busy season at the pet shop, but Emily seemed to be working much later than usual, and she stopped making proper dinners. After about 2 weeks of this, I couldn't hold back any longer. "Lately, you've been lazy too much, haven't you?" I could come home earlier than usual, around 10 p.m., but she was lying on the couch and hadn't prepared any dinner.
I'm sorry. I picked up some takeout from the convenience store for dinner tonight.
Emily seemed apologetic, but I couldn't stand this anymore. "I'm just as busy as you are, but that doesn't mean we can just skip the things we need to do, right? We need to survive, don't we? Let's get it together." Even when I said that, all Emily would say was, "I'm sorry," and after that, she hardly ever cooked any meals for us. I started to get increasingly irritated with Emily. Since I became busier, our life had been reduced to me coming home, having dinner, taking a bath, and then going straight to bed. We hardly spoke, but by that time, I didn't even want to talk to her anymore.
Welcome home. Listen.
Emily tried to reconcile several times by starting conversations like that, but I just kept avoiding her, saying, "I'm tired." 2 months passed like this. It's ridiculous for a married couple living together to avoid each other like this. I knew that, but in hindsight, maybe I was venting my work stress on Emily. That's why I got my comeuppance. One rainy summer day, when I got home around 11 p.m., Emily was not at home. Maybe she's not back from work yet. Thinking that, I didn't bother to look for Emily and just collapsed into bed and fell asleep. And it wasn't until the next morning that I noticed the odd feeling. It was after the room was lit up by the sunlight. Somehow, the room seemed unusually tidy. When I opened the closet, puzzled, I found that all of Emily's clothes were gone. I checked other drawers and found that cosmetics and other small items were also neatly gone. I went to the living room to see if there was a note left behind, but there was nothing. Have we been arguing so much lately that she's gotten fed up and run away? With that thought, I called Emily's cell phone, but all I heard was a cold mechanical voice saying, "The number you have dialed is not in service." And just like that, my wife, Emily, had vanished. I deeply regretted my recent behavior. I could have been understanding when she occasionally skipped her share of chores because of being busy, saying, "It happens." If only I hadn't pushed her away when she tried to make amends and had faced the situation properly. You really only realize these things once you've lost them. But, even if she's mad now, she'll come back someday. When she does, I'll make sure to apologize. Even then, I was still naive. It's been a month since Emily disappeared. My busy work finally slowed down, giving me more idle time. Because of this, I found myself thinking about Emily more than usual, tormented by the fear that she might never return. That's when I found an unaddressed envelope in my mailbox. It wasn't stamped, clearly hand-delivered. Back home, I opened the envelope to find something shocking inside. A divorce paper. For a moment, I thought it was some kind of prank, but Emily's signature was already on one side. It was unmistakably her handwriting. I searched the envelope for anything else, but there was nothing. Why, how come? My behavior must have hurt Emily so much that she wanted a divorce. But I wish she had told me face to face. The idea that everything could end with just a piece of paper, without even communicating, was unbearable. But the truth was, I'd been visit to Emily's parents' home, far away, only once, and I couldn't remember the address, even phone number. Considering she delivered the letter herself to avoid any tracing from postmarks, it was clear Emily didn't want to see me. It pained me to think that I had hurt the person I once loved so deeply that she'd go to such lengths to avoid me. Despite everything, I had no way to persuade her otherwise. Months passed, and I couldn't bring myself to sign the divorce paper, but Emily didn't return even on our 5th wedding anniversary. Respecting Emily's wishes, I signed the divorce paper and submitted it. I never thought I'd be back at the place where we submitted our marriage certificate, laughing together just 5 years later. Tears naturally began to flow from my eyes. 3 years have passed since then. I couldn't give up on seeing Emily again, and I told mutual friends to let me know if they heard anything. Then, a friend of a friend living in Chicago told me they saw Emily. maybe Emily doesn't want to see my face anymore. Even so, I needed to see her and hear her true feelings to move on, and I desperately wanted to apologize. If she found it bothersome, I'd leave right away. With that decision, I headed to Chicago. But Chicago is crowded, and finding her wouldn't be easy. I roamed around the station where my friend's friend had seen her all day. This is almost like stalking. Suddenly, I came to my senses and felt a weak urge to head back home. Just then, a familiar face passed by. They didn't seem to notice me, but it was definitely Emily. I couldn't have mistaken her. Seeing Emily for the first time in 3 years, I felt tears welling up, but I held back since I was in a crowd. She seemed to be looking for someone, glancing around. And there, with a joyful expression upon finding what she was looking for, was Emily's mother and a little boy shouting, "Mommy." The boy, hugging Emily, said with a big smile, "Grandma bought me a toy."
Isn't that nice? Did you say thank you?
Emily lifted the boy with a gentle maternal face I didn't recognize. Emily, she's remarried. For 3 years, I'd harbored a selfish hope to apologize to Emily and perhaps start over. I never imagined she'd have remarried and moved on with her life. If that's the case, meeting her would be pointless. I'd only bring up unpleasant memories during her happy times. I have no place in her life. When we were together, I can't even recall the last time I saw her smile. If she's happy now, that's all that should matter. But I wish I could have been the reason for her smile. No matter how much I regret my past mistakes, I can't turn back time. I could barely hold back my tears, so I turned my back on Emily and her family and rushed towards the station's restroom. That's when I heard it.
"May I have a moment?"
Called from behind. I turned around to find Emily's mother standing there. But Emily and the boy were nowhere to be seen, which left me feeling a mix of relief and disappointment.
"Mr. Johnson, that's you, isn't it?"
Emily's mother seemed to remember me and asked, "It's been a while." She nodded and said she wanted to talk, so we headed to a nearby cafe. As soon as we sat down, Emily's mother apologized. "I'm sorry for what my daughter did 3 years ago." No, it was me who made Emily go through hard times. I'm the one who should apologize. I really wanted to ask why Emily just vanished without saying a word, how she's living now. If the kid earlier was really Emily's, I had so many questions. But it felt like prying, so somehow I just couldn't ask. Then Emily's mom asked me, "What brings you here today?" But I couldn't answer right away. I thought it'd creep her out, me chasing after her to Chicago, even though we split up 3 years ago. But if I wanted to see Emily, maybe I should just be honest. Again, I found myself in a dilemma. Then, from Emily's mom again, "Did you by any chance come to see Emily?" she kindly asked. Finally, I replied, "Yes, that's right. I wanted to see her again, to talk, to apologize." What Emily's mom said next was astonishing.
"Please meet with Emily."
What? I was sure I'd be rejected, assuming she'd moved on.
"But I think it's necessary for both of you to move forward."
Her words were both relieving and painful. It was as if she was saying she wanted her daughter to settle the past and find happiness in her new life. In the end, Emily's mom said she'd relayed a message, and we arranged to meet at this cafe the next day at 2 p.m. I was happy to see Emily, whom I'd missed so much. But the thought that this might be our last meeting made me feel somewhat sad. The next day, as I waited at the agreed spot, Emily showed up.
It's been a while.
Emily said without looking at me as she took her seat. Maybe she didn't want to see me anymore after all. That thought crossed my mind, but I was well aware of it since she brought up the divorce. I decided to express my feelings without any regrets. Thanks for coming today. Ever since the divorce, no, since you left, I've been filled with regret. I convinced myself that I was the only one hurting and never tried to understand how you felt. I think that just made things harder for you. I'm truly, truly sorry. I've wanted to apologize for so long, I said, bowing my head.
What? Look at me. I'm the one who should apologize for leaving without saying anything. I didn't have the courage to face things.
Emily shared her feelings from that time.
We were both busy with work, and I knew we were drifting apart. I guess I was only thinking about myself too.
I thought Emily would be much angrier, so her calmness took me by surprise. But that's because all of this is in the past now. In Emily's mind, it was a closed chapter. When I realized I was the only one who found this reunion meaningful.
Back then, I wasn't feeling well.
That was news to me.
I mentioned it a few times, but you seemed so busy that you probably don't remember.
True to Emily's words, I didn't recall at all.
So, I couldn't even prepare meals properly. And I started to feel down, worried you'd get fed up with me.
Hearing this, I remembered how Emily was always lying down, unable to cook every day. I'm sorry for not noticing. Are you okay now? Was it an illness? I was so overwhelmed by work stress that I didn't even notice Emily's poor health. I was truly the worst husband. That's probably why she divorced me.
It wasn't an illness. I was pregnant.
Her words reached my ears, but it took a while for my brain to process them. What? That was all I could muster, sounding rather foolish.
It's your child.
Emily said as a single tear escaped her eye. What? I couldn't hide my surprise, and Emily continued talking through her tears.
I felt something was off, so I went to the hospital and found out I was pregnant. I was so happy. I thought maybe we could get back to how close we used to be. I thought this child could be the angel that brings us back together. That's why I wanted to tell you as soon as possible and tried many times. But I couldn't find the right moment.
It felt like all the pieces of the puzzle had finally fit together. The reason for her poor health and why she kept trying to talk to me. It was all because she was pregnant with my child.
Then, I started to feel increasingly alone. I wondered if you'd be happy about the child. If I could really be a good mother. I was scared of everything and talked to my mom about it. I didn't intend to leave at first. I was just going to go back home for a few days. But the thought of talking it through with you and understanding each other scared me. I ran away. I'm so sorry for keeping this important matter a secret.
Emily said this and bowed her head once more. And the child? I asked nervously. Then Emily replied, a boy. He's 3 years old now and growing up healthy. Could it be the child you were with at the station yesterday? I think my voice trembled.
Yes, that's right.
Barely had I heard Emily's words when tears started to overflow. That child's smile as he hugged Emily and called her Mommy. is still fresh in my mind. My child. Before I knew it, I was holding Emily's hand. And then, thank you. I couldn't help but say it. Hearing this, Emily also started to cry. I'm sorry for not realizing how hard you were working for our children, and for my awful behavior. I'm sorry for being so selfish, but I always wanted to tell you the truth. If it's possible to forgive me, I want to live with you again. I want to be a father to our child. Can you give me another chance? The wait for Emily's response felt incredibly long. But then she took my hand and said, "That's my line. Thank you." After that, Emily took me to the house where she is living. Our son, meeting me for the first time, didn't shy away and happily hugged me, asking, "Daddy, did you come back from far away?" It seems Emily had told our son, "You had started to question the absence of a father after seeing other families at kindergarten, that I was just away." And he added, "Mommy said so. She said Daddy is a kind and funny person." I felt overjoyed to know that in the hearts of Emily and our son, even I wasn't there, they live happily and loved. I then went back to the main office and managed to arrange a transfer to our branch in Chicago next spring. Until then, I'll be visiting by train on weekends, but compared to the 3 years we've been apart, it seems short. One day, living with Emily and our son will feel normal again. But I'll never forget that this normalcy isn't something to take for granted. Having been apart once, I believe we're now bound by a stronger bond, and I'm starting to walk with my family once again,